Ricardo Wilkins. Oh, what a pleasure to speak to him. Redox signaling. Do you know what that is? REDOX, redox signal. I did not. And he wrote a book on it, but he is not a scientist. In fact, he, used to work for the government. He spent a lot of time volunteering and traveling. He fell into it. This documentary Stink he watched that changed everything. I did a quick AI, description. What is redox signaling? Biological process involving reactive oxygen species or redox signaling modules. The modules are produced naturally within our cells and play a crucial role in cellular communication. So what does that mean for you and I? How does our body heal? How does our immunization system work? These products that we have in our house, are they hurting us? The obvious answer there is yes. You have to be really careful there. But he's got a great take on it from a layman's perspective. A layman is a bit derogatory. I don't mean it to be, but just a non-scientific perspective. His book, Life Biohack, The Human Secrets of Redox Signaling Revealed, a great primer to understanding it. We talk about, the potentials of less sick days, better sleep, longevity, balanced hormones, improved sex life, libido, healthier heart. We talk about how volunteering and travel played a role into his introduction to this. Great conversation with Ricardo. Really enjoyed it. Thanks for listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pins. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business that lasted over 25 years? Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission, how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family and their passion and their careers and how it helped them. Our podcast vision, growth through learning from others. Joey Pins Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. Well, Ricardo Wilkins, thank you so much for your time today. I'm really excited to talk to you. So, that's a very big question. What is redox signaling?
Okay. What is redox signaling? Wow. I probably spent the last 5 years trying to figure out the best and most simplest way to explain what is redox signaling. So redox signaling, really quick. Redox stands for reductants and oxidants. Okay, and or different molecules. And redox, that can mean redox is a transfer of electrons, and that can take place with any really chemical transaction. In the context of redox signaling, it references molecules that are made inside the cell, inside the mitochondria, that act as communication. They orchestrate how our body detects foreign invaders, how our cells communicate with each other when they want to, when there's a damaged cell and the damaged cell needs to, get out of there so it doesn't mutate. Just the simplest way to put it is redox signaling is molecules that act as communication in our body.
So I don't know if you're interested. I asked ChatGPT this question, and I believe redox signaling is a biological process involving reactive oxygen species (ROS) or redox signaling molecules. These molecules are produced naturally within our cells and play a crucial role in cellular communication.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I mean, that's pretty. It kind of gives molecular
Yeah.
signaling, balances key
Yeah.
roles. Immune. So how? What does that mean to us?
Sure, sure. And so that's another so redox signaling, another term is another way to think of it is, or another term more in science literature is reactive oxygen species. So what that means to us is so for probably the before the last years, science thought these reactive oxygen species were or toxic, not toxic, or damaged our cells. It caused oxidative stress and it caused a lot of harm. However, over the last, say, 25 years, they have uncovered that these reactive oxygen species, when in balance, are vital, are critical to the signaling pathways in our body. And they play a role in pretty much every physiological function within the body. So for us, that means when these reactive oxygen species are in balance, these redox signaling molecules are in balance, we're in a healthy balance. Our immune system is acting, detecting damage, getting out foreign invaders, helping us, preventing us from getting sick, making sure damaged cells don't replicate. It's think a good way to think about it is when we get a cut, right, you probably think about like how does our body know how to repair that cut? Right? How does it regenerate that tissue? Well, at the most foundational level, these reactive oxygen species, these redox molecules, are killing those foreign invaders, killing bacteria, germs, and signal the pathways that tells the body to rate that.
Very interesting. Um, I'm going to ask you to just pause for a second. We're getting some interruption.
Okay.
I'm going to stop. So you were mentioning how redox signaling is important to us, and how when we get a cut and how we heal, that's really what we need to understand about it from a layman's perspective.
Yeah, I would say that that's a good way to think about it. I was actually thinking about this yesterday, not even for this interview, just thinking about how to explain this. Uh, is something that we hear a lot of people say is, well, the body knows how to heal itself, right? But how does it know how to heal itself? There has to be some sort of communication, right, to tell the body what needs to be healed, right? So that at the most foundational level in the body, these redox
Hmm.
molecules, redox signaling, the signaling process in the various molecules is how the body knows how to heal itself. And things like term that are function or in our therapy that people hear a lot about now is stem cells. Redox signaling molecules play a significant role in they help stem cells become new cells. They make sure the stem cells are replenished and renewed. And how the renewal of stem cells, um, redox signaling plays a role in everything alive on planet Earth. Animals,
Wow.
plants, um, have a role in redox signaling.
So a dumb question is like, how come I've never heard of it?
That's a question. That's another question I've heard several times. Like, why don't we know about this?
Right.
This is interesting. Even most health professionals have not heard of are unfamiliar with the term redox signaling. They maybe have heard of redox, the term that process. Yeah, it's just a chemical, biological, biochemical process in the body. But redox signaling is a vast area of science. It's being studied around research, universities all around the world. Pharmaceutical companies are racing to develop pharmaceuticals that I guess target the redox signaling process in the body. It's been around for about 25 years, 25, 30 years. It's
Hmm.
been studied, but it's more so in the research phase in universities around the world.
So since it's still researching, is it unproven? Is it still uh, when you say researching, what do you mean?
Sure, yeah. So I think, if you show somebody went to pubmed.gov and put in, reactive oxygen species or redox signaling and just a area of the body or maybe a disease or a health condition, you'll find thousands of, peer-reviewed articles. But so what? There's still I would say that researchers are still uncovering the the process, the redox signaling process, and how it affects the body. So it's still something that's being like uncovered. And because these molecules are very, nanoseconds are used in nanoseconds in the body, and they're very small. We're talking about, atom-sized particles in
Wow.
the body. So it's very hard to measure. But they do know that, again, like I mentioned before, they thought reactive oxygen species were cause more harm than good, and now they're realizing that when balanced, they play a vital role in our health. So they're still trying to figure that out to some extent. They
Hmm.
know, like, and how more so how the process happens in the body, I would say.
Ricardo, but on your site, you say potential benefits: less sick days, better sleep, more
Sure.
longevity, balanced hormones, improved sex life, libido, a healthier
Hmm.
heart. I mean, these are significant health, factors.
Hmm. Yeah, so well, that comes in where, because what prompted me, because I wrote a book called Life's Biohack,
Yeah.
the health secrets of redox signaling revealed. It's a short book that I wrote to just, again, most people haven't heard of redox signaling, just to educate and bring more awareness into this field, and to make sure, like, in a just comprehensive, but it also simplified it so it made sense for people, and just more like a broad outline of what it is, how it works in the body, why this process declines as you get older. But so there's a health product I promote, that contains balanced redox signaling molecules or reactive oxygen species. So it's the only commercial representation for this area of science. Whereas, we think of most supplements, people are nutritional, right? We're harnessing fruits from, minerals and vitamins from roots and plants and herbs, harnessing that. This product harnesses, mirrors what the body does. So now we can replenish these reactive oxygen species, which is
Hmm.
at the tip of the spear in this area of health.
Yeah, your book is a great, kind of primer introduction. It's not too sciency, and it's not too,
Yeah.
it's written for people like myself who want to be introduced to it, and
Hmm.
as kind of like you say, the tip of the spear. And you got into it. You watched this documentary, this stink, and while you didn't relearn, kind of relearn anything, it was just thought you just kind of brought it back to the top of your, your inbox, kind of said to say, and that kind of prompted you to look more into it. And simple things like taking your shoes off when you get into the house. What other things can we look at to help in this area?
Yeah, yeah. Watch this video called this documentary called Stink, like you just said. That was really just kind of got me a little angry. Just talking, it talks about
Mm.
how prevalent chemicals and toxins are in our household products, and how a lot of legislation allows these products. I mean, allows these chemicals in products. So yeah, and I worked at the EPA, United States Environmental Protection Agency, for several years, and I learned a lot of things. Just how chemicals, and more there and more agricultural, but just harming a lot of people. And but to your point, to your question, one of the things that people can do to mitigate toxins in the home, one, get clean, green products. And this is something I about, as I was researching my book, is that that's not, the term green or even organic isn't regulated. So any health product or any household product can have that term on its labeling, but not really be green, right? So we might say, "Oh, this is a clean product," but so it's good to just investigate and just verify that it is an actual green product, does not contain any chemicals or anything that might be harmful. Taking your shoes off when you walk in the house, opening your windows, if you can, opening your doors, your screen doors to, say, a patio, just to, daily, just to let some fresh air in, have a plant in the home. So those are just a few things that people can do that don't require, aside from things that don't require any monetary exchange.
You mentioned these products being green. I took the time yesterday to look at some of the products, and they all say green. It's just
Yeah, yeah,
we're just being heavily marketed to, and I mean, just look at Roundup, Ricardo. I mean, here's a perfect example. Here's a product that everybody's using outside to get rid of their weeds, and it's a class action lawsuit, and we find that it's the what's happened there, and um, there's just so many products that when you read about them that are just so damaging, and
yeah,
but people are used to it, and they know it works, and they're not really. I shouldn't say everybody, but many are. But
yeah,
uh, do you have particular
yeah,
brands even like white vinegar is a great agent for cleaning, right? Doing a
yeah,
little lemon, baking
yeah,
soda.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny that you said that. I just saw somebody on Instagram sharing that was talking about this very topic. Why it caught my attention was talking about these toxins and chemicals, and there's natural ingredients that you can just pick up that are cheap and pretty much for the most part just as effective. And like you said, white vinegar was one of them. That's not for me. Uh, the product my go-to is Second Generation. This is just one I'm familiar with, and that's reputable to have clean green products. But there are a good variety out there. Just have to again, people have to do their due diligence. And again, there's a lot of people want to take the time to do the research, find just natural products, and just kind of create your own concoctions that are green and just as effective.
Yeah, you see that more and more, and even with toothpaste, right? I mean,
Hmm.
what are your views on fluoride, Ricardo?
I'll be honest with you. I have not researched uh, the controversy or the debate as it pertains to
Mm,
fluoride. I've heard it that it's harmful. People I trust, I would say people I trust don't try to avoid it. I'll say
right.
that. So I think I probably lean more toward avoiding it, but honestly, I haven't done my due diligence to come up with a determination on my own. How about you?
I try to avoid it as well.
Okay.
I do the same thing
Yeah.
as you. Of people that I trust avoid it, so I said, well,
Yeah.
I do my best too. I mean, I don't necessarily need it. I know they put it in a lot of our water supply. I know we're both in the
Yeah.
Northeast, and
Yeah.
they put it in our water supply, so it's hard to avoid. But we just don't know.
Right.
We just don't know. I
Yeah.
remember those videos in the 40s and 50s where they were like going into neighborhoods and spraying asbestos on people because they thought it was the
Yeah.
best thing. And now, we know what's
It's
happening.
just
We don't
yeah,
know.
it's even I just recently I wish I would have did it a lot sooner, but I was living as a nomad for the last 2 years, so I guess I
Yeah.
didn't have a good reason. But I just invested in a UV for our countertop. For a while, we were just using one of those oh goodness I
The
forgot the term.
Brita
Just like
filters.
yeah, yeah, you fill it up and we're just using one of those. And again, I just saw something that just reminded me of how, there's still toxins in the water supply, even though it's filtered, and those filters aren't, really aren't that sufficient. So it's like, you know what, I have to make this investment to you get sun now. So just, make sure everything's as clean as possible. Because it's just, the problem is, I feel like this is just my opinion, a lot of the testing that's done on these chemicals to determine if they're safe or not. This a product might have this value of chemical in it, and they determine that's not safe. I mean that is safe. Now, say that testing was all on board. There wasn't any conflict of interest. We won't say
Mm,
it's just that's safe. However, there's chemicals you know everywhere. There's chemicals, water supply, our food, our household products, the air. So our bodies are just bombarded with chemicals just everywhere, all day, every day. So while the chemicals in this one product, I'd rather avoid all chemicals if
right.
possible. While the chemicals in this one product might be relatively safe, it's not accounting for the continuous use of that one product, or the product or the chemicals just all around us in our food, and again, our air, and just everywhere. So that's kind of like my thoughts on it, regarding like some of the testing that, because in my research, you'll find people, individuals that bring up this testing that says, well, this testing, verifies it's safe. This trace amounts, or this is a relatively small amount of this chemical in this product. Even though, again, I wouldn't want a carcinogen in a product at
Right.
all. But for the sake of arguments, let's say that's safe. It's not accounting for, they're not testing for all the chemicals that are so prevalent in our environment.
The testing is a serious issue. I mean, when did those scientific papers that came out that said that smoking was healthy, in the 40s and
Yeah.
in the 50s and maybe even the 60s, the testing, you never know if it's being influenced or not. The
Oh
other
no,
two,
definitely.
it has to be, right? I mean, at
Yeah.
one point, um, which came first, the volunteering or the traveling?
Um, the traveling came first. The traveling came first. I traveled, I did some traveling, mostly, in my early 20s, early 30s, mostly like big group trips. Um, like Cancun. I did go like Brazil. It was a big group trip to Brazil. A great time. So I did some traveling, and then when things really changed for me, when I met my current partner almost 11 years ago. Wow, time is flying. She did some, what I'll say, culture traveling, and I always credit her. She taught me how to travel,
Mm.
and me and her started doing a lot of traveling, maybe like 2 international trips a year, some different places across the U.S. So I would say that's really what really spawned my enthusiasm for traveling. And then I volunteered maybe in 2019. I volunteered in Cartagena, Colombia, which was an amazing experience. So traveling came first, then the volunteering.
And the education that you receive, I've heard you talk about, how you loved it, how it gives you perspective, how you, in the Amazon, you were with some hunter gatherers and they just don't have money and they're just as happy as anyone could be.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I, I mean, I can go on and on about travel and just the education, and just on so many facets. The Amazon, that was actually, yeah, that was in Ecuador. That was this
Ah,
in
was Ecuador.
December. Yeah, me and my partner Ruth, we were in Ecuador for 6 weeks, and we did a day tour of the Amazon. And our tour guide, he was great, and he, you know, just speaking of, well, I'll speak to you what you he spent, I forgot how long it was, but a good amount of time with like hunter gatherers deep in the Amazon, and he just kept reiterating on our day with him how they didn't have any cash, they didn't have anything, they didn't money wasn't something that was foreign to them, and just how their lives were just much simpler, and they had a lot less stress. Not that they didn't have problems, and I'm
Of
sure
course.
they fit a lot of things they have to deal with in the middle of the Amazon, but he just kept reiterating how like his face would like light up. He knew
Hmm.
English. I wish my Spanish was better so he could have relayed his experience a little bit
Hmm.
more, because I could tell he wanted to say more, but his face said it all. Just how unique it was to live with them. And again, just like we did the tour of the Amazon, which was amazing, but just our day with him, learning about his life, his family, his experience during the pandemic, his losing his dad. Uh, it was just those kind of cultural rich experiences, interacting with someone that me from the DC area, just completely different perspectives and experience, and it just opens you up to, in my just open you for me it learning someone else's experience lets me know my experience isn't really that important, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Your Instagram quote, volunteering abroad invites us to step outside our comfort zones and immerse ourselves in a new environment where everything from the language to the customs is unfamiliar. These unfamiliar undertakings catalyze personal growth, challenging us to adapt, learn, and broaden our perspective.
Yeah, yeah, that was I went to, like I mentioned, I volunteered in Cartagena, Colombia for 2 months in 2019. And that was a time in my life. I worked at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. At that point, it was about 14 years, and I just wanted to do something different. I wanted to uh, just do something that fostered growth, something that challenged me, just something that was more meaningful. But I didn't know what that was, and I really wanted to quit. But luckily I had a lot of leave, and you know they granted me 2 months of leave. So I went to go volunteer there in Colombia, teaching English, which is really at the time for me a challenge, a barrier. But that's why I was there in those 2 months. And I don't really even think I realized until maybe the last year or two how transformative that experience was for the reasons that you just laid out, that you were reading from my Instagram. Because I was just living completely differently. Even though I traveled, I never lived outside of I never been outside of Maryland or DC area longer than 2 weeks. So just living somewhere else just does different things to our mind. Scientifically, it's been proven to create new neurological pathways. Just kind of like um, opens our mind up in a different way. We see the world in a different way. That alone, living with people that didn't speak English, doing something that was challenging but rewarding, teaching English, at the time, I was, and still to some extent, I was terrified of speaking in public, like terrified. I would never have, I just would never, I just didn't do it at all. And every day, not every day, but a couple times a week, standing in front of a class, leading a class, teaching English in this really low, impoverished community was was challenging, but just doing that week after week, kind of like building those new muscles, and
Hmm.
really just changed the trajectory of my life moving forward. Like I even later that summer, I spoke in front of like 600 people, and as I reflected back on my experience in Hana, all these different elements, like I learned to play the violin while I was there, and learning to
Hmm.
learn Spanish, just these elements that, again, scientifically we know. Uh, create new neurological pathways, builds new positive brain matter. It opens up our senses in a way, because when we're just living a regular routine everyday life, uh, it kind of just become just I don't want to say, it kind of like dulls our mind. I'll just kind of like
Yeah.
dulls our mind a little bit because it's just automatic. But when we're in a new environment, our senses, we have to pay attention.
Mm.
It's we can't be on automatic, so it just opens our senses up in a different kind of way, and I feel like it just you know just feel alive differently.
Yeah, we must continually strive to avoid complacency, right? And
Yes.
so when my father was an Italian immigrant, when I was 10 years old, the first day of summer, third grade. So I was 10, and my father gave me a suitcase and said, "Put your clothes in the suitcase." I said, "Sure." And he proceeded to bring me to the bus station in New Haven, gave me a picture of my grandmother, and gave me a plane ticket. Told the bus driver to drop me off Terminal One at JFK. So I said, "Here's a picture of your grandmother. You're going to meet her in Milan." So 10 years old with a suitcase, got on a bus,
Hmm.
didn't even bring me to the airport, Ricardo. So I took the bus there. I got JFK. I asked somebody. I got on a plane. I flew to Milan. I met my grandmother and my uncle for the first time, and I proceeded to spend many summers in
Hmm.
Switzerland and Italy all through college.
Wow.
And it's just a completely. It's not better. It's not worse. It's just different. It's just
Yeah.
they just live differently. You
Yeah.
know, you can't say it's better or it's worse, and you just learn how
Mhm.
they just walk everywhere, you know, they
Uh-huh.
eat well and they take their time, and the idea of drinking coffee in a car is very foreign to them, and
Yeah.
you know, and it's just very, very different. And you, like you said, you gain perspective, and you just, I don't know, you learn to take a deeper breath. You know, we're so
Yeah.
fast paced here in the States,
Oh
you
my
know,
gosh.
we're so, everything is so
Yeah.
quick. Um, and so, you know, balancing the two
Mhm.
is tough to do, but it's well worth it. And
Yeah.
you know, learning the language, like you said, and learning how they live and respecting the culture and
Mhm.
understanding it. It's just, it makes all the difference in the world. So, how did the volunteering and the traveling bring you to Redux Signaling?
They're really it didn't. They kind of happened separately. You know, they're completely two separate elements to my life. I would say they both represent help foster growth. I would say
Mm,
that. You know, I would definitely say they both came at the around the volunteer came and the resignaling came right around the same time, literally around the same time. So that was 2018, 2000, beginning of 2019. So since then, it just kind of like, it's almost like, looking back, I didn't know it at the time, but it was just like this shift in my life. Just this, yeah, just a new trajectory in my life. Just doing different things, learning new different things, challenging myself in ways that I had never have in the past. So
mm.
different, but somewhat, related as far as a growth and transformation are involved.
But you did kind of have that realization at one point. You would say you worked for the government for
Hmm.
almost 20 years, and you know, you said you've kind of had enough, and they said there was a firing there and it was a blessing in disguise. And but I mean, this was just kind of led you into a completely different path in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I literally probably learned about redox signaling end of 2018, and it was right around the time I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do at my job. So it was literally, it's again, looking back on it, I wish I could go back and see what my mindset was then.
Huh.
Because at the time, when you're in something, you don't know what's happening, but it was literally they're happening at the same, like literally the same time. I'm like researching where to volunteer. Um, um, I am communicating with my manager, trying to figure out like, are they going to let me negotiate that? Are they going to let me volunteer and leave, or am I going to quit? Uh, and then I went to Cartagena right around the time I really invested into just area science, redox signaling. Really, again, at the same time, the travel was more so, I was more intentional. Like, okay, I want to go volunteer because I need to not necessarily find myself, but I just need to get out of the environment, and I know I need to be in an environment that um, helps me see the path forward. And I don't know how it's going to do that, but um, it did because what the traveling did, specifically the volunteering, was it was like and again, reflecting on it, it was, 'cause I went gone through a lot of development programs and coaching. It was like a personal development program that I lived, every day, just living in this different environment, the volunteering, the learning the instrument, the learning the language, all of that was like a personal development program in itself. So in a lot of ways, that prepared me for um, my undertakings as it pertains to redox signaling, writing a book. Just the the mindset to, like, what, I can write a book. All that, I would say the impetus for that was the volunteering. This new chapter of my life.
Yeah, because it's a far it's a large step, Ricardo, from learning about something and doing this volunteering and then taking the time to write a book. You know, I mean, you learn about a subject, you get passionate about it, you kind of share it with others, maybe, I don't know, have a podcast or something, but you wrote a
Yeah.
book about it. I mean, it's a big
Yeah.
undertaking.
Yeah. It's funny. My dad. put my name on Amazon. It's like you have a you wrote a book. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I wrote a book about science. I don't I I hated science. I hated science growing up, but I found something that inspired me. So yeah, sometimes I just like, wow, that's pretty cool. And even when I was writing, I probably the idea to write the book, it's probably 6 months from the initial spark. I'm going to write a book to it being published. And it was, I had a lot of, that chatter in my head, like, do this, who am I to write a book about science, and all that was going on. But a lot of my experiences over the last couple of years, um, allowed me to, to publish a book, which was amazing. And now that I published the first one, now I feel, I have that foundation to put, I have another one, in the works. I planned for it to be out by now, but, I'll probably wait till January.
Mm. It's fascinating trajectory that one chooses when they volunteer, when they kind of go out of their zone like that, and what they learn and where it takes them. It's fascinating to me,
Yeah.
Ricardo. So I started my business in the '90s, and
Mhm.
I was working way too much, and I gained a lot of weight, and
Mhm.
uh, I got up to 340 pounds. Doctor said to me, my daughter was just born. If you don't lose this weight, you're never going to see her graduate. And it's all I needed to hear. I took the next 6, 7 months. I lost about 130 pounds. And people always ask me, how'd I do it? Like they want some quick answer. They don't want
Mhm.
to take the time to volunteer or to travel. They want some quick,
Yeah.
indicative of our society here in the States. But my answer to them about how I lost 130 pounds in about a half year is always discipline. I got focused, I got disciplined. That's how I lost it. How does discipline play a role in your life, Ricardo Wilkins?
Wow, that's a great question. That's a great question. How does discipline play a role in my life? Well, right now I'm dealing with a newborn.
Yeah, I saw
So
that. Congratulations.
so
Yeah.
right now the discipline of being patient and just being present. I'm learning a lot. He's teaching me a lot about presence and just taking in the moment. One, I did a post about this a few days ago, and a lot last week. And speaking of travel, my partner, we were in Costa Rica a few years ago, and it was this father and a son. We were at an Airbnb, and it was a father and a son who they lived next to us, and maybe a couple times we would just see them sitting on their porch, just staring at just staring at nothing.
Wow.
And we were kind of like, huh, it was inspiring and peculiar at the same time. We were kind of like, what are they looking at? Like, they're just being, they're just present. And we're not like here, like you mentioned, we're always in a rush. What's the
Mm.
next thing? We always need something to occupy our mind. And I was kind of like, wow. So, having my newborn, observing him, he he just stared. You have a daughter, so I'm sure you experience this, and everyone who has children experience this. But he just kind of sits there and just looks at nothing, a lot, But he's seemingly content,
Yes.
and he hasn't been, I say, corrupted by this world of always needing something to occupy his mind. So I'll find myself, holding him and, okay, let me get my phone so I can do something while I'm holding him, or let me get my computer so I can do some work while I'm holding, so I can take advantage of this time. And then I'm like, wow, but maybe I can. What if I just be? What if I'm just present in this moment, holding him? I'm not, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna get these moments back. So right now, so your point right now, discipline. That's how discipline is playing a role.
Hmm.
Is not trying not to feel like I need to occupy my mind, um, every second, or need to be checking, the mark of the next task, accomplishing the next task. Uh, so that's probably the right now.
It's amazing. I see the pictures on Instagram of you with your newborn. It's beautiful. And
Thank you.
yeah, and it's amazing what we can learn from our children, isn't
Hmm.
it? To kind of take a step back.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's yeah. I don't always succeed. Sometimes I fail. Sometimes I still grab the phone. But I'm definitely learning a lot, just observing him and being a first time dad.
So restraint, uh, um, focus, perspective. These are all kinds of what I feel on the discipline spectrum that you're exemplifying now with this kind of new chapter in your life with your newborn.
Yeah, restraint. You said what was that? Restraint.
Restraint, focus,
Yeah.
and yeah, and I forgot the third one I already said, but yeah, yeah, I recently I
Uh
just
huh.
saw some pictures of my daughters when they were very young, just yesterday for
Uh huh.
some crazy reason, and it just, you just lean back, just kind of what you did right there. You just kind of lean
Yeah.
back and just say, things aren't that bad, and I'm going to turn the news off, and I'm going to,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
breathe in a little bit, and very interesting. What motivates you, Ricardo?
Mm. Oh, that's a great question. Right now, I would say what motivates me is becoming. Just becoming more, experiencing more. I believe that we are all, you know, we are all have this innate desire. I feel like to be unbounded and to have a limitless life, limitless in experiences, limitless in wealth, limitless in who we are, who we represent ourselves, how we represent ourselves in the world. And for a lot of years, I would say most of my years, I I had a lot of limiting beliefs, and I just I lived a constrained life. In some ways, some ways I didn't, and in some ways I lived a very constrained life. I intentionally was holding myself back, and I was unaware of it.
Hmm.
So now, what motivates me is just becoming. Again, the kind of that my experience in Cartagena kind of really again changed the trajectory of my life. The last 4 years have probably been again not absent of obstacles or challenges. Probably the best 4 years of my life
Hmm.
because it's been about becoming. Becoming a better person, becoming an entrepreneur, um, just becoming a leader uh, for others, publishing a book. So right now, that's really what motivates me is just becoming experiences, just travel. A lot of people constrain themselves by, everything's not for everybody. I don't want to say everybody has to go out and travel and, live as a nomad. But I do feel like a lot of people maybe miss out on what travel can offer as far as becoming and living limitless. Just watching the terrain or landscape in Africa can just be monumental. This picture behind me, this was in Abu Dhabi, the empty quarter in Abu Dhabi. We spent the night there, me, my partner, and our guide, Kareem. We spent the night there, and we were just surrounded by sand and dunes and 1,000 stars, just talking with him. And at one point, I turned to her and I was like, "This is life." It was like I would that moment that when I look back, I reflect on like my life over the last 48 years. That's a moment that just stands out. A simple moment in the desert with a stranger talking about life under the stars. Like moments like that to me, that's being limitless.
That's wonderful, Ricardo. That's wonderful. And how do you measure success?
Mm, wow. That's not so. How do I measure success? I think before I would have measured success. Um, how many countries I've visited.
Mm.
I think that's how I would have measured success. I measured success. I would say probably different. Just experiences. I think I would say I measure success by experiences and moments. Those for me, those when I look back on my life, those are the things that I remember. Those are things that move me. Now, to have certain experiences, you need, certain, you know, that's not free, right? Um, so by gaining, certain uh, level of wealth or finances allows you to enhance your experiences. So I would say the foundation is experiences and making memories with people in different places. But now I see gaining a certain level of wealth and success and representing that, showing people what I can become, um, how we define success as an entrepreneur is is also an area that I'm looking to define.
I like what you said about experiences. As I get older, I find that I have more questions than I have answers,
Hmm. Yeah.
birthday comes up or holiday comes up, what would you like? And I never, I want less objects and less, I want experience, let's have an
Hmm.
experience. Let's have a meal.
Yeah.
One holiday, my daughter said, Dad, what do you want to do? And I said, you know what? I want you guys to watch a movie that I love with me. That'd be a
Uh-huh.
great experience. This is
Yeah.
something that you would never watch, and
Yeah.
I want to, and they said, okay, let's do that. So I just to be together and to share something like that just uh, uh, makes it all the more special. Because you'll
Yeah.
remember them. You'll absolutely remember them. Uh,
Yeah.
Ricardo, thank you so much for your time. I know we got this pushed around a little bit. We had a couple technical
Sure.
difficulties, but I'm so happy we talked. I hope one day we can, sit and have a cup of tea or something. It'd be great. How can we get in touch with you if whoever's listening?
Sure. You can find me on Instagram. The handle is I am Ricardo Wilkins is a great place. And also Facebook, Ricardo.Wilkins, my handle there. Those are two probably the best places to get a touch of me.
And of course, the website is
Yes.
lifeandredux.com.
Yes. Yes. Lightandredox.com. My book.
Make sure we put that in. The book is available on Amazon. We'll put the link in there as well. Ricardo, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it.
You be well.
You too.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinn's Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider $5, $10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinn's Discipline Conversations.